And welcome back to the UIA Trusted Partners Podcast. On today's episode, I have a very special episode. In fact, I have Michelle Hurt, founder and development of Chariots4Hope. Michelle, how are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm so great because you are finally on the program. It's taken a little bit of coordination, but I'm kind of happy that it did. Before we get into too far, you had invited me out. And I got to witness what we're going to talk about firsthand in person. And that's kind of what took a little bit of a delay to get you in here because I wanted to see it firsthand as well. And the timing was just perfect. So for us diving into today's show, for the listeners who may not have had the chance to meet you or heard about Chariots4Hope, what is Chariots4Hope? And correct me if I'm wrong, but you just celebrated 10 years?
We just celebrated 10 years this year. Yay! Well, first of all, thank you for having me. And so I appreciate sharing the mission with your listeners. But so Chariots4Hope, we exist to demonstrate God's love by removing transportation barriers here in Omaha and actually beyond.
Yes, I noticed that you have multiple locations throughout the state, in fact. So correct me if I'm wrong, too. One in Wisconsin?
We have a chapter in La Crosse, Wisconsin.
That is awesome.
Yes, they are year 2, coming up on year 3. So
congratulations, Wisconsin team.
Yeah, way to go, La Crosse. So.
Yes, but other than that, it's mostly right here in Nebraska, right in the back door. I think it was Grand Island was a location in Lincoln.
Yep, we are primarily in Omaha and Lincoln, and then another little chapter in Grand Island.
I love
that's with a partnership that we have in Lincoln. But we are definitely there. So
I love it. Growing the cause, growing the mission. More hands make less work. So I do love that. Now I'm curious as well, as I'm sure the listeners are, what inspired you to create and start Chariots4Hope, and what does it really offer for the people that get involved with it?
Yeah, great question. Okay, it's one of my favorite questions. So Jason and I, he's my husband, we moved here 11 years ago, and we moved here from Long Island, New York. Jason, we took a leap of faith to open a franchise here in Omaha, Nebraska. So we had every intention to move here for profit. Did not see nonprofit anywhere on the radar. We purchased a franchise called Christian Brothers Automotive.
Okay, yeah.
So we were the people that spearheaded Christian Brothers here. The 168th Maple location is the one that drove us to get here. Very cool. So Jason left his corporate job in 2013. We moved here, watched the store be built. And so none of us, Jason cannot turn a wrench.
Fair enough.
I am probably more of the car girl versus him. But Christian Brothers' model is basically they wanted more of like an executive to run it. And then obviously hiring all the amazing, brilliant technicians and service writers and all the things that go with a shop. So we realized that when we opened our shop in December 2013, January 2014, somewhere in there. Nebraska's a very wide state. And one of the things we noticed was transportation is very challenging if you don't have a car. Absolutely. And so Jason was so cute. We were like month 3 into Omaha and not knowing a soul here because we have no family. He said, how can we help the community and, help with people, help with primarily single moms. And we were having women coming in. They were just like one water pump away from just derailing their whole life because transportation was just so crucial. And he's like, well, how can we help it? Like help the community just on the side. So what started as on the side engulfed our hearts. And Chariots4Hope was born out of Christian Brothers. And we were doing it on the side for about a year. And so I remember like networking and all I could talk about was Chariots4Hope because I could see the difference. And we started out as Oprah. We had really, really big hearts and no brains. And so everybody got a car kind of thing. Oh, yeah.
Because it feels great.
It feels great. It feels
great.
So good. You're just like, oh my gosh, your life changed.
And then you see the P&L afterwards. And you're like, that doesn't feel so great.
No, it did not. And we were trying to run a for-profit business. So it was just this twofold. And so we kind of came to a crossroads. And through a lot of prayer, counsel, and just together as a married couple, we, by the grace of God, took it to Christian Brothers and said, hey, we really want out of this business. And they're like, that's really cute. You have to sell it. Jason's like, it's been like a year and a half.
Yeah.
This is no bueno. We were going to lose a lot of money, but that's with any kind of business risk. And so we kind of put Chariots on hold for a little bit and just concentrated on the business. And they called. We'll never forget it. They called us and they said, as a company, they had prayed as an organization, and they were going to let us walk debt-free.
Wow.
They were taking it over as a corporation, and that we could walk with not losing anything. We would get back what we put in, and we could proceed to Chariots. It was one of those, like...
stars aligned.
Down on the knees, hysterical crying, just like, holy moly, like this is what we were feeling was it. But then the realization hit when you're like, I have 2 children, we have no job and no paycheck.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, there's that.
Oh, yeah, there's that.
Oh, but God, we stepped out of the boat and we trusted. But yeah, 2 years. We left Christian Brothers, 2 years, no paycheck. Jason and Michelle hit the ground running. Literally, it has been a journey in really strengthening our faith and been a roller coaster, but really appreciating this community in Omaha, because this is incredible philanthropic community I knew nothing about because I came here for profit. So that's how Chariots4Hope was born.
I love that. And it's just such a weird stars align, kind of just everything happens for you. Just such a great way too. Because I mean, obviously without that, oh, hey, now we're just doing this. Oh, crap, now we're just doing this. Obviously, without that, there might not have been this never came out of the side project. It always just stayed as a side project. Mm-hmm. So maybe a blessing in disguise there.
Right. Well, and I think we recognized a gap. And so we filled a gap. And Jason did tons of research. So if anybody's ever like, his encouragement, if somebody says, I want to start a nonprofit. Oh, that's so wonderful. We always say, do your research.
Yes.
Find the gap and
make sure there's
a need.
Yes.
And that somebody else isn't already doing it.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to oversaturate the markets. And so this was a gap that was not being met. There are car programs that people take cars, they donate cars. Mm-hmm. But there was really nobody in this region that was doing what Chariots does. So that would be my little nugget to somebody. To do your research.
Do a little research and
recognize the gaps.
Yeah, exactly. And then hit the gap with everything you've got.
There you go.
Go from there. Because obviously now we're 10 years down the road and Chariots4Hope is in full swing. In fact, got to witness one of the events here just a couple weeks ago. Spoilers for when we're recording this was a couple weeks ago. But I'd love for you to kind of touch on that before we dive into some of the values that are instilled into Chariots4Hope, because I think it'll help reflect those values when you go into them. If you don't mind sharing that story of what I got to experience the other day, I think the listeners would really appreciate it.
Yeah, so Chariots4Hope, I said earlier that we remove the transportation barrier. So primarily they come to us for cars, and we assist them with that. There are other programs Chariots has, but the big one that you'll see on social media and a lot is the surprise factor. Yes. We walk alongside these incredible clients, and we break that barrier. So we bless them with this car. And what I love about our program is it's an application process. Mm-hmm. So this is a full program.
Right.
This isn't, here's your keys, one and done.
We're past the Oprah stage, people. You don't get keys.
We're over Oprah. That was year 2.
You're 8 years too late for that.
For sure.
But no application.
There's a major application process. So we partner with over 100 nonprofits.
Wow.
So they are the ones who generate the referrals. So they recognize their client needs the transportation, and they also recognize that he or she is ready for it. Then they come through our application process. There's a discretionary income they have to meet, insurance, driver's license, drug test. There's all these different check marks along the way to get to the point where you witnessed is the day that we call it the blessing. Yep. And that is the day that we bamboozle our beautiful clients with their car. And I promise you, if you were to ask any one of our Chariots4Hope family members, they will tell you it's probably one of their top 10 days, because a lot of them have never had the opportunity of being surprised, or that people invested that much time into making that effort to make it a memorable day. And so what I love about the blessing is you can get, obviously, the community involved, which we did with Cenosphere, my chapter. They sponsored her. But that is a day when they come out, because it's a lot of work behind the scenes. That was a month in planning. Like, she's been waiting for she was waiting longer than that. She was waiting longer. But a lot of our clients wait anywhere from 4 to 6 months because it's a process. All of our cars are donated from the public. So it takes time. And so I love our clients because they're vetted and they want to invest in themselves.
Yep. I think that's what it's all about. It's an organization, and it's a true way for people to really get back on their feet, really dedicate to themselves. And hey, here's part 2. Let's not need a part 3 kind of thing, but let's fix part 2. Yeah. And I think that's really impactful with Chariots for Hope there. And I think just to kind of attest into the blessing day that I was a part of.
Yes.
The look on her face, was pure shock. I think she actually went into shock for a moment there. I think she actually was in shock. But then I think the realization, because she kind of started doing head turns left and right, left and right, left and right. And I think it was kind of dawning on her, just how many people were just around there supporting her and like encouraging and being just there to clap a hand and to take a picture and to wave and smile. I think just that alone with that presentation, it just speaks volumes to what it does for somebody. Because I can just imagine, think back to, your high school graduation or something, how cool you felt or how great you felt grabbing your diploma. Everybody there was clapping for you. It's a great feeling.
Yes.
So I think it just adds and kind of gives back that sense of pride a little bit of like, I did this.
And you heard her.
Yeah.
Her story is one of massive overcoming of major hurdles.
Huge.
The victories that she has celebrated and she was sharing, it's just overwhelming. And we know that car will now absolutely catapult her. And you're right, those are complete strangers, but she will remember that day, because I know sometimes people say, oh, Michelle, it's just a car. And I will challenge you.
Yeah, and challenge it as well.
It is truly a ticket to freedom and self-sufficiency. And when you have a single mom, that has been, her whole life has been maybe a tear down or a knockdown, or she didn't have a cheerleader. And now she has these group of people that are part of her comeback story, part of the victory. And now she's got that tool of a car to get to A to B. And you already heard what she's doing.
Yep.
And so those stories for me, the inspiration is insane. Like, they come to Chariots, but I think the trickle effect and the ripple effect of what they do for us internally in the community is probably something I could never even quantify, because now you're talking generational with her children.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a huge thing. And again, we're being a little vague on who the person was and what she was doing and all this kind of, there's obvious reasons for that, people. Yeah. So if you want to be a part of this amazing organization, Chariots for Hope, they have an awesome website that has a portal for you to get involved there too. So there's plenty of different ways to get involved. We'll touch on some of those here coming up. But I want to touch on the values of Chariots for Hope, because they are listed right there in plain, I think, yellow font on the website. Yes. They are passion, family, collaboration, performance, and compassion. Now, I'm kind of curious, what about those specific values stuck out to you to make them the foundation and building blocks of the organization?
Number one, it's passion.
Yeah.
It's passion for sure, because then the other ones fall in suit. So this was birthed out of a passion and a burden, right? So Jason and I felt this burden. We could not shake it. And I often think, what happened if we ignored that nudge?
Right.
I think of the girls and their stories, and I'm like, okay, maybe Chariots wouldn't have helped them, but we were missing out on part of their story. And so because we were so passionate about it and we didn't give up, because there's so many people that give up so quickly, because it's like,
it's hard.
It is hard, and it's hard to keep that passion ignited. But passion for sure that is what fuels these other ones, because then it goes on to the family. And I'm not just talking the families we serve. That's families within our own staff. Family is crucial. In fact, we call it our Chariots for Hope family. And we want these people they have a safe space. Not only that, but for our employees. And then collaboration. Chariots for Hope, our passion, we're so passionate about collaborating. We can't exist without collaboration. The referring organizations, the financial donors, the community partners, the vehicle donors, it all comes together for all those individuals we serve. So you have to collaborate. And then performance. We all have been given amazing gifts, right? But you have to be performance driven. You're not going to be successful in whatever you choose to do. If you're working at McDonald's or if you're at a high corporate job, your performance is key. And I think we, because of our passion, just really keeps us like sharpened.
I like that.
With our performance within Chariots for Hope. And then compassion, just having this empathetic willingness to meet people where they're at. People are struggling.
Yeah.
And I'm grateful for the passion that Chariots has given me to love people, because somebody loved me at a time in my life when I didn't deserve it, or when I was not expecting compassion and empathy. And so I play that a lot in my head. And I think that is what the driving factor is for those that work within Chariots. We all have this passion and compassion to just meet people where they're at.
I love that. And I think that you can't have something without compassion. I mean, business is business. We all know that in the end of things. But if you can't try to meet somebody halfway and understand what's going on in that life, you might be in the wrong kind of business or the wrong attitude of business for sure.
100%.
And then to touch just back on the word collaboration.
Huge.
You and I honestly may not even be talking if it wasn't for somebody in between us.
Right.
Brett with Invictus.
Yes.
Speaking of somebody who helps with Chariots, the guy's amazing. He's such a nice guy, first of all. So, Brett, if you're listening, you need to schedule. Yeah, we love you, but you need to schedule your appointment for the podcast here. But no, Brett with Invictus Auto, he does A, amazing work, and B, I don't know if I've met a more personable car guy. Like, I'll just be honest, there's a lot of car guys I've met in my day. None of them are quite so personable as Brett.
And that comes from a compassionate heart because of his own story. And so I think that's just what drives people, right?
Yeah.
It's just your own inner overcoming and stories within. And so it obviously overflows in his work, and then his willingness to give back in the community, and then his business excels because of his... He's
everywhere.
Yeah, and he's so contagious in that.
He is.
In a good way.
He is in a very good way. He is very contagious because he's just got that personality about him that you want him around. You want him around to kind of hang out. You want him to intermix and mingle with people around you, because he is that kind of guy I call him the spark plugs. He's a spark plug guy because he's going to keep everything fired up and keep a good energy about the building and the room and the atmosphere, because he himself is such a positive guy.
He is full of inner joy.
Yep, I love it. And it shows through for him too. Now, of course, the amazing experience we touched on a little bit ago is just a drop in the bucket to what you guys really do and offer all at Chariots for Hope. Of course, you can take a moment if you'd like to fully represent what all you offer, or you can always tease people to have them come on to the website and reach out to you for more info.
Yeah, for sure. I will just touch on, we have, 5 or 6 programs, but I won't go into detail. But the first wheel program is the big one. That's the one you see with the big yellow bow. There's a second wheel program. That's more of a car buying program.
Oh, okay.
So some girls come to us and they have more money.
Sure.
$3,000, $5,000. We'll help them find a better car with lower miles. So
awesome.
We have access to, the different Mannheim and all these other ones, car auctions and things like that.
I love that.
We also have Road to Freedom. That's our education. So we teach education, insurance, and Jason is a stickler on insurance. Getting under the hood, letting them... empowering them to know their car. Knowledge is power, right?
Absolutely.
So a lot of these girls are afraid to get under the hood. So that's one of my favorite classes. But Road to Freedom, we have Beyond the Car. That's all of our community events. So now they have a car to get to extracurricular activities. Those are my favorite. That's the secret sauce to Chariots.
Okay.
And then we have a repair program. So girls can come to our shop for a very reasonable hourly rate.
Wow.
It's pretty silly, but
I mean,
it's amazing. And then we have transportation grants too. And then, Jason's starting a new derivative arm of Safe Route. And that's just helping transport survivors of trafficked and then domestic violence. So case managers are having difficulties helping these girls get from A to B in a safe manner. So that's another division that we're working on.
I love that though.
So, but it's everything we do is transportation related. We really stay in our lane, and then just different ways to encourage and love people, like I said, where they're at.
Yeah, it shines through. And I know I'm excited to talk a little bit more, maybe off the air, about that last program here, because Kelly Craner and Raina Garcia, both friends of the show with Restored Wings and the Set Me Free Project.
Yes.
And their episode is one of my favorite episodes on the show. Spoilers for everybody else listening. I'm sorry. But they had a wonderful episode because it really was a very powerful telling of, hey, this is how we try to prevent human trafficking. This is what happens in the aftermath of human trafficking. So a very powerful show on that one, but both wonderful, amazing women that we'll talk a little more about this in that program after the show here between us. But of course, for people wanting to be involved with those programs, they just go out to the website, click that one little button of, hey, I want to be involved. And that's it.
That's it.
That's it.
That's it. We will get in touch with you. And the one thing I love about that, the collaboration piece, so not talking about the referring organization side, Chariots partners with so many. You just mentioned one. I mean, there's several of them that we partner with. You might be a total fan of another nonprofit, and I'll be like, yeah, we partner with them.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's just, that for me is so, we should all be working together.
Absolutely.
And we are trying to make this community a better place for all the people we serve. And that's what I love about that collaboration piece. But I promise you, if there's I'm passionate about this nonprofit, I'd be like, oh yeah, Chariots, we work with them.
Yeah, they're cool. We know them.
Yeah, it's good.
I do love that. Of course, under your resources tab on the website, there's a lot of resources on there. Of course, I'm not going to make you rattle them all off. That'd just be insane. Listeners can go look at them online while they're listening to this episode, though.
Yes.
And maybe you could touch on one or two of those and just kind of goes into maybe what they pertain to.
A lot of the resources, we get a lot of questions about car donations, and that was a big one. So we try and answer every question about, hey, I really want to donate my car. What's that look like?
What's the rule? What's the stipulation? What's the guidelines for that?
That's a big one. Yeah. And then a lot of it is we get so many phone calls. I want a free car. We tell them to go. I would like a free car too.
Wouldn't we all? You got to win that sweepstakes to win the car.
Atlanta.
Or Wheel of Fortune.
If you learn anything today, Chariots4Hope does not give away free cars.
Yes.
We're not those people.
Yes. Chariots4Hope helps you with transportation.
Yes.
In a very awesome way.
You're so sweet.
Now, it is one of those things that, again, the amount of people that you would love to serve versus the number that can be served, a little bit on the different side, unfortunately. But there has to be rules that you guys follow and go through. Hence, hey, there's an application to fill out. Yes, we don't just hand you keys to a car. There's a little bit of a process there with that too. So I think all of that, just being transparent about that too, is really healthy in today's world, especially because, oh my gosh, everything's behind a paywall, or you got to click and subscribe to this before you can see the rest of the art. It's insane. So just being transparent, I think, is a breath of fresh air in today's world. So I love that. And I love that about Chariots4Hope, that you guys are so transparent and honest on your website as well as in person.
Yes.
Yes.
Try to be, yes.
Yeah. And I mean, it's just a really important piece to me, because I think if you're doing business, whether it's nonprofit, whether it's for profit, there has to be transparency and honesty throughout.
100%.
Which is exactly what you get with Chariots4Hope. Of course, if you want to be involved, you just go onto their website. Now, huge collaborative effort. You guys actually have a podcast yourself.
We do.
I wanted to at least give you the spotlight to talk about that for our listeners at home, or business owners at home that want to tune in.
Behind every car blessing, we call it Under the Hood. And it really is the stories of the people we serve. And it's kind of getting under the hood. Who were you before Chariots? How did you overcome it? what has the car done? Like, just really being transparent. And this is what drives us to do what we do. And so it's just sharing with our audience, and it's sharing with our donors, like, you are investing in amazing people like these incredible men and women. And so I think people may just think, oh, she just got a car. No, there's a lot more. So much depth. And I think it just gives the opportunity for them to share their appreciation and just celebrate the victories that they've had and with the stories that car has taken. And so, yeah, it really is just an under the hood podcast of just getting deep of each client.
Yeah,
that are willing to share.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's a great podcast. I've watched a couple episodes. You can find them on YouTube. Again, that was Under the Hood for Chariots for Hope.
Yes.
You can tune in. I definitely suggest you do because, again, you guys have your shorts on there, just little brief snippets of what happened at certain giveaways and certain events. You might even catch me in the background of one of them recently. But I feel like that's such a valuable piece as well to really give that person an opportunity to not only have a reflection on what was their life, but giving them an opportunity to really double down on, this is going to be my life going forward. Yes. So I really think that it's a fantastic opportunity through and through, from the start of that application to joining the program on Under the Hood. I think it's a through and through amazing for what you do for people.
Thank you. And, people always say, you must really love cars, You
must love cars.
And I'm like, yes, but no. We love people. And honestly, I think that it's the tool. It's the tool that God has given us to use to get into their hearts and lives, and to be their partner in breaking that barrier of transportation. Because Omaha, do your due diligence, learn the public transportation here is very challenging.
It is.
And what these women endure and what they do, it's unreal, the amount of hours spent on hustling transportation. And so a lot of those girls kind of talk about that through that. But I think, again, it's going back to just transparency. And I think Chariots for Hope, if you're a financial donor or a vehicle donor, a volunteer, if you're investing any part, I promise you will physically see your donation in movement, in motion, feel it, touch it, see it. I really feel we try to be extraordinary stewards of what we receive and how we return it to the community, because that's why we started it.
Exactly. I do think you do a phenomenal job of that, because literally on the website, people, I can't even make this up, on the website, you literally have annual reports in big yellow letters for financial accountability. So obviously accountability is pretty important, and transparency is pretty important here.
I think that's Jason's corporate side coming through.
That must be his insurance side dinging in and going, Now, of course, what is something, if business owners or listeners alike that are listening into today's episode, what's something if they are wanting to kind of give back? Maybe they want to donate that car. Maybe they just want to have that conversation initially to see what all goes into it a little more in depth. Mm-hmm. What's the best way to reach out?
Through the website, or they can contact me, Michelle, at chariots4hope.org. We're Chariots, the number 4 Hope.
The number 4 Hope.
.org. Yeah, we can plug them in where they need to, where they like to serve, whether it's volunteering or serving at our Beyond the Car events or whatever it looks like, or donating a car, because we take everything.
Yeah, of course. And I guess I'd be remiss if I didn't follow up that question with, is there anything right now that Chariots for Hope is looking for in a donation or help or anything like that?
Yeah, always looking for cars.
Always.
Working, non-working. We have 2 huge events every year. Those are kind of our big fundraisers. Thursday, May 8th is our Field of Freedom event, and that is a really great way to either volunteer or sponsor or to attend. We hold it at Peter Fink's Certified American Muscle Car Private Museum.
Very cool.
So we're very grateful for Peter and his partnership. And then we have our big golf event, which is Chariot Champions, and that is Thursday, October 9th. We will be at Players Club this year, and Whiting Turner Contracting Company drives that, and all their incredible subs that support it as well. So
very fun.
Those are the big ones, but getting involved with Chariots, especially as a business, I think the Jumpstart sponsorship is probably one of the coolest, and that's what you witnessed.
Okay.
So for $2,500, your company or your family or your Cenosphere chapter can sponsor a family. So we take it to your business, we do the blessing there. It's an opportunity for employees or family to see, I donated this money, I sewed this into Cassie's story, right? Into her. We even had somebody in our chapter donate that car. Brett detailed that car. There's so much collaboration and beauty. It's overwhelming to me. But the Jumpstart sponsorship is such a great visual. Because, you can donate to great organizations. You just never get to really see it, touch it, feel it.
Yeah, and sometimes that impact's lost. It's easy to cut somebody a check and just say, okay, yep, it's going for a good cause, but then you feel nothing about it. So it's very easy to lose sight of some of those things. It's very difficult to look what you're doing in the face and say you don't feel something. It's very difficult to say that.
It is. I think, too, sometimes I always think it's always about our client or recipient. But when I hear the stories from what that blessing did for the people who attended, I'm always blown away. I'm like, it's so much more than the car.
It is.
It's just, we think we're doing it for so many different reasons, but the ripple is far as exceeded to what I've ever imagined, right? So,
which is a great thing to have.
Yeah, it's good.
Definitely love that. Now, a follow-up question. This one kind of popped into my head as we've been talking a little bit. I'm very curious. So going into this now for 10 years, all of these really, really powerful stories, a lot of them probably have a very dark point in them. I'm very curious how you, as the person who is in charge of this and coordinating these and interacting with these people all of the time, how you're able to help keep yourself in a good mindset when not let some of that darkness and some of that shadow of the past on some of those and the heaviness of those stories really weigh you down.
Yeah, that's a great question. Boundaries.
Fair. That's a fair statement right there.
And I've learned that through the years. By the grace of God, we have a staff now. So what was on Jason and Michelle in the beginning has been now
dispersed a little bit. Yeah.
And so Cassie is our programs manager. She takes a lot of that on.
I'd met her briefly as well. Very, very nice.
Yeah. And then Maddie, she helps too. So Maddie, Cassie, and myself are the three ladies of Chariots. But boundaries has been huge. And to love them. And honestly, I'm going to be honest. I have given my heart and it has been trampled on.
It happens.
Multiple times. And
it
so
happens.
Just allowing myself to have my own time and my own space with my family.
Yeah.
And I'm doing this with my husband. So it's challenging to turn Chariots off. It's so woven now in our home and our DNA and just in everything. So Jason and I do everything we can to protect it. We're really intentional about date nights.
That's good.
Just trying, this is nothing against, we don't talk about Chariots. It's like the golden rule.
But that's a great rule to have.
We really try. It's not because we don't love it, but it's just.
But that's the thing is you have to keep work outside of the home sometimes, especially when it is a nonprofit like this, to where it can invade the home very, very easily.
Yeah, I mean, listen, my kids help volunteer on Sunday, so it's like it's a big part. Don't get me wrong, and I'm so grateful for it. I really am, but. It does, and my bucket does get empty, and I have to find ways to recharge.
Yeah.
And, my faith is a huge piece of that, getting involved with my own church or going to get fed that way. But in ministry, it is true. I mean, you sometimes find yourself wanting to just isolate because you're so tapped out.
Right.
Because you give yourself so fully. And you want to be present for every conversation, whether it's in the community or somebody we're serving. And so I think that's a good, whether you're for-profit or nonprofit. Yeah. Because you can be just as big as a workaholic for-profit. And
yeah, you certainly can. And it's one of those that it's just good to hear a good piece of advice for people, because whether you're in a business, whether it's nonprofit or for-profit, it's good to have a boundary. And I think you saying it plainly as boundaries, I actually think was probably a good piece there, because I've had a lot of people kind of dance around that word or kind of allude to having the boundaries, but it's like, oh yeah, you just make sure that you just brush everything off before you come home or on your drive home, that's where you vent things out, blah, blah, blah. And again, they're alluding to boundaries, but they're not fully expressing. So I appreciate the expression of, hey, no, just boundaries, plain simple boundaries.
Boundaries, and it's okay to say no.
It is. Sometimes you have to be a bad guy. I get that a lot. So,
but just so you can't say no to me.
Nope, I can't say no to you.
I'm like, wait, they didn't say that. Yes, they did.
No. But no, it is something that is a very important part of any aspect of work. I just felt that during our conversation that was a mounting question that I kept resurfacing in my brain, because that's a lot to take on emotionally, physically, mentally. There's a lot that goes into that.
It is. And I would say quarterly, we take time out as a staff.
That's good.
And we go out and do fun things. And so we think, investing in your people and loving the people that you've entrusted with your mission.
Yeah.
And trust me, they are not there because they're there because they had a burden themselves. Like, this is their own passion at our table on, every Monday morning meeting. Like, they're there. This isn't a job, like this is way more. And so I think it's really important to invest in your people.
It is.
And to take those timeouts and just have fun.
Yeah. And it's great because I think just for spoilers for the listeners at home, the episode that's going to air prior to this should be Christy Johnson with Magnetic Cultures.
Okay.
And her whole business is about going into businesses and building healthy culture.
So crucial.
So what you are telling me right now is exactly almost verbatim what she was saying. Like, hey, you have to take time to unplug and, reciprocate that to your employees. Make them understand that you are appreciative, not just saying thanks and, handing them a Snickers bar or something, doing something meaningful. And again, doing quarterly, that's fantastic.
Yeah.
It really is. Now, for Chariots for Hope, obviously, everything's a job in life. Everything is a job.
Everything's a job.
So this is a question for you that, it does technically fall into the job category, so I left it in here. So what is something that's part of your job that you feel kind of goes unnoticed, or maybe it's something that's kind of in the behind the scenes that just never gets the glory that it should?
It's Monday morning.
Okay.
And it's the power of prayer. And I know that sounds so generic, but we are faithful as a staff every Monday morning. It's about a 40-minute prayer, and it's for our community partners. It's for our donors. It's for our staff. It's for the people we serve. We have seen things answered that you just can't make up, Dylan.
Yeah.
And that's something that I'm not out all the time talking about, but that is when I promise you, I say, we'll pray for you. Like, it's legit. It's coming from a place of we've seen power in it. And it's not like a prideful thing, or it's not like this crystal ball thing. It's just
right.
For us as a staff, it is how we have been in so many valleys in this 10 years. And there are prayers that have been answered that we have been so faithful in coming together collectively as a team. And the team has changed,
Sure.
But the one thing that has been steadfast is prayer. And it's not like, hey, look at us kind of thing.
Right.
But it is the driving, most powerful thing as a staff that we do every Monday morning.
I love that. And that's, I think, the most unique answer I've gotten from any of my guests. So thank you for that answer. I do like that answer as well, because, again, something as simple as that can set a week in the right direction. I
think sometimes in today's world we overcomplicate.
Yeah.
And so...
hyperfixate, overcomplicate. Oh, recipe for disaster.
We're not in control anyway. So it's Chariots for Hope isn't even mine. We said yes to the mission. And so this is the outcome. And so Jason and I, as a founder, it's very important to keep that in check, because it's a legit thing about founder syndrome. It's a real thing. And if we were to ever step away, if we don't let it continue, then in our eyes, it wasn't successful, because you want
the secession somewhere.
100%. we had the call, we said the yes to the burden, and this is where it's at. And so I think just really humbling yourself every Monday and just,
No, I get that.
It's powerful, and it sets the tone for the whole week.
I love that. And I think, speaking of nonprofits, and it just kind of made me reflect for a moment, back with my conversation with Kelly Craner and Raina Garcia. I think I said it probably best on that episode, but nonprofits are the kind of the biggest contradiction, right? Because we need them, but what we need them for is something that shouldn't really exist. So it's kind of once we fix the problem and alleviate it, we don't need nonprofits anymore, which would be the healthy, happy goal in the end of things, which 100%. Again, I said it a lot better on that episode, but it's almost that cruel double-edged sword of a nonprofit. You have to see all the bad to show people where the good is.
100%.
And I appreciate the effort from anybody who runs nonprofits for sure, because
not for sissies.
Not for sissies, that's for sure. In fact, one might even say that it's actually one of the best nonprofits. People are telling me Chariots4Hope is actually a great nonprofit. People tell me these. I've got you through it.
I love it. Oh my gosh, I love that.
I break that out from time to time. You got me excited. What can I say? But now that I've cracked the tension and the mood a little bit,
I love it.
I do want to know, because you had mentioned going through some valleys in Chariots4Hope. I'm so curious, as a founder, what has been some of the difficult parts about growing Chariots4Hope and running Chariots4Hope in a healthy way? And what do you think your biggest pride point is off of that?
The most difficult is in a mid-sized nonprofit. For us, you heard me talk a lot about faith. We are driven that way. We are in a world, it's been very challenging in some ways to have that attached, because we're a very secular mission. We don't have to attach it.
Right.
We've been asked multiple times to take it out, and we will give you this. It's been very interesting. So that's been a challenging thing, not to compromise.
Yeah, I can understand that.
So
the bend don't break kind of thing. Yeah.
And so that for me is where we've seen those prayers be answered, because there are times where it's just like, this is impossible. And then I'm reminded, it is impossible, but I'm so much bigger.
Yep.
Meaning, I'm speaking of my faith.
Of course.
And so I have just seen very ordinary things turn into very extraordinary things. And there's no other explanation than just that. And so it has been difficult to not compromise in sometimes, because I'm just a very secular mission. But the reason we started it was this was a platform to share the good news. And so that for me was probably a challenging thing. In 10 years, some people are like, I don't really care. I love cars. Great. Or I don't really care. You guys love people where they're at. I love that. Great. So it's just sometimes people overcomplicate it, and it's not that big of a deal, but that has been a challenge. And then just clarifying the mission.
Yeah,
like we don't give away cars, you know.
Yeah, we're not Oprah out here.
Somebody says giveaway, I'm like,
yeah, it's not a giveaway. No. It's an earned away. I don't know how you can phrase that one. Marketing guys, where are you?
There was one other thing you said too.
What your biggest pride point might have been off of that?
So COVID 2020 hits. Everybody's in massive disarray. We furloughed our staff. It was rough. And Jason and I were looking, we shut everything down. And we were looking at jobs at Walmart, Target. He was looking at corporate jobs. We were shutting the doors. And two of our staff members, I remember them, they called. It was like, that hit in like a March or whatever. And we were kind of all down for a couple months, and they said, we don't care if we're getting paid. There was work to be done.
Oh.
And so...
you gotta love the passion behind that. And of course, it's gotta mean a whole lot. I get the tearing up. It's even choking me up a little bit as well, because just feeling the passion that you've started trickle down to the employees that are there underneath of you and with you alongside of things. Unbelievable.
And that was what was so cool, is that... we went from literally all of us going to leave to we tripled our donation in like 4 months. And we were kind of looking for a place. We found a home. We had this plethora of cars come in. Like, it was overwhelming. And I think that for me, even for Jason, it was just such a faith needle move. Like, it was almost like God said, I'm not done with you. What are you doing?
That door stay open.
And when the two of them said that, Jason's like, what do you mean? Like, I can't pay you. They're like, we don't care. There's people that need us. And I remember that first blessing, Bridget, we were in Grand Island, and it was probably one of the best blessings because it was just such a time in our country and people just needed hope.
Yeah.
And it was that obedience, I think, that just whoosh, this effect of God's like, I see you. Good job.
Good job indeed. 10 years down the road.
Oh.
Yeah. Oof. And you made it through the chaotic years of 2020 to 2023.
Man. But that was a pretty big moment for Jason and I and for the staff. Yeah.
I can imagine. And that's a very powerful moment too, especially when staff come forward. It's like, no. We see the mission. There's still things to be done.
Yeah. Because
that's just amazing.
Even the two of us, we were just like, I can't.
Yeah. I mean, again,
the money's dried up. Like, we can't.
You have a family. You have to take care of people. There are things that have to keep moving in life. You just can't stop them. Like we learned in 2020. Hopefully we learned. Things just don't come to a standstill. You can't. It sets too many things back, especially in personal lives. A couple bills go back. Well, now you don't have a home. Well, now you don't have power. So there's just things that have to keep moving. And so I'm so glad that 10 years down the road, Chariots for Hope did not close the doors in 2020.
Did not, no.
In fact, God just pretty much Spartan kicked those things wide open and said, nah, you're staying around for a little bit.
Yeah, he kind of showed up right there. It's like, wow, he really showed up.
He's like, you thought.
Yeah.
No, I do love that. And I love that we have gotten so much insight from your perspective into Chariots for Hope and how this originated and where it is going today and how it's going today. I love that. What's something you would want listeners to know more about when it comes to Chariots for Hope or about maybe nonprofits in general?
Well, I think it all goes back to, again, the collaboration piece and just being open.
Yeah.
Just being open, especially for other nonprofits, to just play nicely in the sandbox. I think it's a competitive society, and, donors are donors. And, I just, as a community, like, we should all be working together to do for the better. Right. And I just think, I don't know. I think sometimes people have a misconception of nonprofits.
I do too.
And it's unfortunate, and there's some
fantastic ones out there.
There's some fantastic.
Chariots for Hope, point in case.
And then there's some that, you should
do a little more research on.
Do some more research on.
Exactly.
Yeah, but I think when nonprofits, I think everybody has all the intent to make this a better community, to serve the people that they serve. And, I know I'm not doing it for a paycheck. Like, it has nothing to do with that. It's just in a founder's situation, in a founder's role, it really is coming from a place of burden. Mm-hmm. And so speaking, I'm sure, on behalf of other founders, it's just that is what drives those within. But it is challenging for nonprofits because there's so many great organizations and there's only so much money to go around, right?
Exactly. There's only so many hands, right?
Yeah. And so I think what I love for Chariots is, and Jason's executive mind is, he's tried to create more of a social enterprise within. And it's crucial for nonprofits to have that derivative, because if A, B, and C dries up, how are you going to survive? And so creating a social enterprise within and having funds be available other than A,
just
B, and C.
Charity funds. Yeah. No, that's a really good idea.
I would challenge nonprofits to think outside the box. And so I think for us, that is a strong point. Jason is a very driven businessman. He's an entrepreneur at heart. And so he's just using it in a manner now to serve others, and, way different than where he was in his executive days, but the gifts that he's been given, right?
Yeah.
So in the nonprofit world, I think you will hear that more about being a social enterprise within the nonprofits.
I mean, it's not a bad idea because, I mean, again, it kind of hedges some bets, so to speak, against the economy, against things going up in price. So it's things to keep mindful, especially, I know we've had a couple animal nonprofits on the show before, and that was a big cost for them too, is talking about food, talking about just having the funds available to do anything for these animals, the cost of treatment, anything like that. It's all outrageous these days. We all know that. But to have that little side fund, I think, is a good piece of advice.
Well, and we're cars, so we have a tangible piece. And so that is a crucial piece of our funding, and you can see that all on there. But cars, it's a tangible piece.
Yep.
And so it's a thing.
It is definitely a thing. Now, one last time, we are sitting down with Michelle Hurt, founder of Chariots4Hope, and development manager, however you'd like to do that, because she's obviously out here getting the good name out there. Chariots4Hope, of course, a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful nonprofit. I encourage listeners to go out to your website to go not only check out some of the awesome videos you have up there, check out the podcast on YouTube, and that was called Under the Hood.
Oh, yeah, Under the Hood. It's so great. Yeah, I'm so grateful. So we have our own marketing. He's full-time. I'm so grateful for Bryce because we are such a visual nonprofit. Yeah. So, check us out on social and then everything that Dylan just said. That'd be great.
Absolutely. Show some support to a phenomenal cause, which is what it's all about here on the Trusted Partners podcast, just trying to get local Omaha businesses, nonprofits, the like, just give them a moment in the sun. Yeah, that's all it's all about.
Thank you so much.
Of course, before we get into my burning personal questions here, I know they're so burning. Is there anything else you'd like for listeners or business owners to know about Chariots4Hope before we turn the coin?
Oh my goodness, I feel like I just overwhelmed people with all this information.
No, I think you flooded people with the realness of this.
I really feel like, for Chariots4Hope, we say it's on the back of my shirt, it's way beyond the car. And I think for people to just truly understand, there are just so many different arms to Chariots4Hope, so many different, the way that we're able to serve these people, just truly boots on the ground, and how life transforming a car can be and beyond. And that we have created Chariots4Hope USA. Jason's goal is to create other chapters like lacrosse. And so if that's something that you're interested for in your city, or, it's almost like if you want to, I want to start a Chariots in my city. So that is an option too. Cool. That is Jason's heart and soul to the Midwest needs it. Living in big cities, transportation's everywhere.
Absolutely.
In the Midwest, it's pretty challenging with the different options. And Uber gets very expensive.
Yeah, I was just about to say, I challenge any listener out there this weekend, or whenever you may be listening to this, take a weekend. Don't use your car. Try to get around. See how far you go and see how much it costs you to do Ubers and do all that for your weekend. Or try to see the inconvenience of trying to jump the bus.
Very.
Because that's tough.
It's
Those
tough.
Bus schedules are never on time.
No.
Not once.
And try and do that with 2 kids in your arms.
Yeah.
And during the winter and -20 and all those things. And
now sit out at a bus stop for 40 extra minutes because the bus was running late.
And listen, just to be clear too, all the people we serve, yes, they have a story. And they had made choices along the way that have not have been the best. But I love Chariots because I just feel like we're this kind of more of an upper arm of their story. They're ready to take it to the next level. And whether it's bad credit from buying a car and they're upside down, or they just can't get to the dealership because of their bad credit or funds, Chariots is such a great jump start for them. Our goal is to get them anywhere from 12 to 24 months in that car and teaching them but now they have this tangible piece that they can now turn it into a trade-in or buy a better car. Yep. And so that is the whole walking alongside them and creating a transportation plan is crucial.
And I love it too, because it just makes me think of, for me, in that situation, especially with the one I was privy to, the first family vacation they're going to take. The first trip that she's going to be able to take. Yeah, it's just one of those that I get flooded with these because I'm a curious cat myself. I ask a lot of questions, obviously. But it just makes me think of all these different things that now she has the opportunity to now have, which it's all thanks to Chariots4Hope. So love that you are in the Omaha area. Love that this organization is right here in our back door.
Thank you.
Time now to shine the spotlight right on Michelle. Nobody else. It's just Michelle now. No, I'm just kidding. Now, I am that weird Nebraska guy. I love the summertime. I don't care if I'm melting like a popsicle outside. I'm in a Hawaiian shirt and khakis. Like I'm that guy. So I hate the fall and winter. I don't hate them, but the air hurts my face and I don't like it.
It's brutal.
Yeah, but now that it is here, I always try to look for something to look forward to. Is there anything in fall or winter that you tend to look forward to?
Well, I have to admit, I am a Vallis junkie.
That's okay.
So sorry.
Okay.
I did. I got bit when we moved here.
It's a great place.
Nothing in this country. I've lived in 5 states. There's nothing like a Vallis. It's steroids major. So we are those people in the fall. Winter time, it's interesting. I'm not around. I mean, we're here. But we have family in Branson and family in St. Louis. So we usually go home for the holidays for those things.
Fair enough.
And they have lots to offer.
Yeah.
But I'm very impressed with Omaha spending the money downtown with just how they're improving the downtown city. It's a beautiful city. It's so clean down there. Living in New York and Atlanta and St. Louis, it's a beautiful city.
Yeah, it very much is. I remember when I visited I lived in Watertown, New York. I visited New York City one time. I was 5th grade, whatever I'd be age-wise at that point in time. I remember walking through Times Square, and I remember seeing a puddle of water that had an oil sheen on it. I was like, it just rained. It shouldn't look like that, right?
Yeah, they tell you if you want to visit New York City, like not to go in the summer, because if you walk by the sewers, it is like
it's a little
death.
Ripe. It's a little ripe.
Awful. But New York City is such a great place to people
watch.
It's
so cool. It is one of those. I do want to go back in my adult life just to go visit for a couple days, because I do remember Times Square during the day, and we were walking around, we were doing the whole tourism, getting the sights in, and then as soon as it got dark, the lights went on and that whole strip came alive.
It's amazing.
It's insane.
There's nothing like it.
There really isn't. I want to go back in my adult life to go experience it.
I would go at Christmas.
A Christmas. That's a good idea.
It's very romantic.
But there's so much snow. I hate the snow. There's so much cold and snow.
So I would tell you fall because I'm a summer snob too. Okay. So
I can live with fall.
Yeah.
Just got to put up with the leafers up there.
Right.
So now that you are in Omaha and you've lived here for a little while, what do you consider, at least now, currently, to be your Mount Rushmore of Omaha? Maybe some recommendations for out-of-towners to come visit on their trip in, whether it's food, whether it's a place to go see, whether it's a museum that you like, what have you.
Oh my gosh, have you been to the new Joslin, how they redid it?
I have not. I've been told I need to.
Stunning.
Okay, it's on my.
I am not like that person, but it was so peaceful. It was so beautiful. They really did a great job. I did enjoy that. What's another thing, like food-wise?
Food-wise, yeah. I mean, we've got so many restaurants, and I swear, like every week there's a new one.
It's insane.
Every week there's a new restaurant somewhere.
Yeah. So I have to tell you, Jason took me to the restaurant in the Farnham Hotel.
Oh, I just was actually going to go there about 2.5 weeks ago. It was on my radar. What is that called? Is it Fireworks or Firecracker or something like that?
Something like that. Not cheap. This was our anniversary dinner.
Fair. You don't look at cost on anniversary.
I literally think I licked the puree mashed potatoes out of my bowl. It was the most delicious steak. Dynamite.
Dynamite, that's
fireside.
What it was.
Yeah. The atmosphere is very bougie and very shishi, and the Farnham is just stunning in itself.
Oh, it's beautiful.
So that was cool. Archetype coffee is insane.
I've never been there. I'm not a huge coffee drinker myself, but I have a whole office of coffee drinkers that would love a good recommendation, I'm sure.
What's the coneflower?
Coneflower? Yeah.
That is incredible. I love their ice cream.
I am so torn. I enjoy coneflower, but I have such a deep love for Ted and Wally's lemon ice cream that I am so hard to ever go to coneflower first.
Well, the Butterburkle has me at hello, so the Butterburkle is pretty intense, I have to say.
It's a pretty good one.
I don't know, and I just love being downtown. I love the marketplace, the different shops, the different unique places to go. I think that's what's so cool about Omaha. It's so underrated when it comes to that, but I really think they are doing really great efforts to improve the city.
I think so too, and a lot of work's being done over in the old market as well, which we actually had Brickway Brewery on the show. I was talking to Zach, and he was kind of going on to kind of say, yeah, you know, things have been touched up down there. Old Market's now a really, really nice place to come back to and come see. Funny enough, I had an interview later that week, I believe, with the Artists Cooperative Gallery, who's also in the Old Market. Wow. Phenomenal people. I'm so happy to have them on the show, and that episode is doing wonderful, and I hope people go support that art.
Yeah, I really think this is such a locally driven community.
It is.
I really do. Like, yes, there's franchises here and all that, course. But
you're going to find them anywhere you go.
And even like Scooters, right? They're a partner, and they're all locally owned by different people. And, you know, the Chick-fil-A is the same thing.
Exactly.
They're all locally owned by people. So Christian Brothers, locally owned.
Just because it's got a big fancy name on it doesn't always mean it's the corporate guy sitting there behind the thing counting the stack of bills.
Correct. You know? I love this town because it's so local. That's why I love being involved with the networking, because you just get to be a part of that. Yeah. Yeah.
There is a part of networking that oddly makes me reminisce about back home. So where I'm from, it's very, very small, very, very community, very, very nothing around you. So people kind of make it what it is. So it's the people that make it fun. It's the people that make it important. It's the people you have fun with. So it kind of makes me reminisce a little bit of that in certain events and certain circumstances that I go to in networking worlds.
Yeah.
Very similar to when I went out and saw The Blessing. Like, just very similar feeling to small town America, where I literally grew up for most of my life.
Yeah, and what's really weird in Omaha, we're all so oddly connected.
We are.
I'm just like, wait, how do you know that person? And I'm
weirdly enough, I'm right there with you.
This is so weird. I'm not even from here. How did this happen? But I think it's kind of cool that it's just everybody's... Like,
everybody somehow knows each other.
Like, you know that person? I know that person. Yeah.
I got a gentleman in my office, Spencer Mashing. That guy knows everybody. I can literally walk into his office and be like, hey, you know this guy? He goes, yeah, he went to, and he'll tell me the school that he went to. I'm like, how do you know these people,
insane.
My guy? I love it too, because he's just a resource of knowledge at that point. But no, I do absolutely love our small town feel in Nebraska, even though we are quite a large city. And I think sometimes people forget that too.
I think so.
Oh, I'm just going to run uk across town. Depends on your definition of quick.
Now with the construction.
Oh my You're telling me I'm over on the 96 and Giles area, and I come all the way here. You're telling me about construction. So I'm right there with you. I don't know why they do it all in the fall. I love it so much. Thank you, construction workers. We appreciate you. We genuinely do. But last burning question here for you on the day. What is something in Omaha that you would like listeners to either know more about or you wish supported more?
So like more on the nonprofit side, or just anything or business?
Anything in general that comes to mind. 'Cause I've had some people tell me that they wish people would know more about our local breweries. I've had some people tell me that they wish they knew more about local art exhibits or different things that are just kind of tucked away in certain business districts, stuff like that. And if none come to mind, that's perfectly okay.
For me, it's more of like I'm going to speak from a nonprofit side.
Absolutely.
Just get involved. You know, whether it's in your local church or if it's in an organization, or time is very precious. And so I respect that. But even just donating maybe 2 hours of your time, or just seeing what's going on in your city. We live in a very philanthropic, giving community, and there's a lot of great people doing great things. And there's so many people that weren't given second chances that now are thriving because people took the time to invest, whether it's their time, their treasure, or their talent. And so I would just challenge people to find an organization or a church or something to get involved and give back in some way. It doesn't have to always be financial. It can just be time, or, you know, you doing this and just building awareness, or liking their page, or writing a good review, whether it's for a business or a nonprofit. Like, just slow down and take the time. And, you know, there are people that really truly value that. So I would say on the nonprofit side, yeah.
I love that. And we value you, the listeners here on the show. Of course, having the pleasure and opportunity to sit down with Michelle Hurt, founder and development director of Chariots4Hope.
Thank you, Dylan.
Of course. Thank you so much for being on the show. And of course, listeners at home, thank you for tuning in to today's program. Of course, you know we're going to have more coming up next time.